Hey everybody, it is Dak here from the Ed Boys, and today we are talking about my first impressions of the new raid, Tombs of Amascut. Before we get into that though, I have already clickbaited you with that purple light, so let's go ahead and roll the clip. Come on, do a fucking 10, please! Woo! Normal mode number 1 on the day, and I succeeded? Let's go, that's my first normal mode solo, boys. Oh my god, it's purple! Oh! Am I losing my shit? No way! Oh my god. I got the Fang, boys! GG's! Can I have it, please? Osmumten's Fang KC3. Holy sh... Now, of course, I was hoping to see Tumeken's Shadow in there. That would have been insane, but I will take that crazy day 1 drop. It still was kind of insane, let's be honest. I won't spoil any of my other Tombs of Amascut gains that I have made so far, though. I will be putting that into my Road to PVM God series, rather. Today, we're going over my first impressions of the raid. I'm going to go over each of the paths here and then the final boss. This is not a guide. This is just my first impressions. I'll be talking about some of the mechanics, sure, but this is not my official guide by any means. I will be working on getting an actual ToA guide out as soon as possible. Let's go ahead and start with the Path of Tumeken, the monkeys. So the room before the boss fight is probably the most annoying, like, first room in any of the raid, but the more I've been doing it, the more fun it gets, honestly. There's a lot of gear switching involved, and it requires pretty good communication to not get hit by the roof, the vents, or the corruption in the room. So every, like, 30 seconds, there's an issue with one of those 3 things, and only one teammate can see which issue it is. You can type in the chat to get this done. We've just been using a P to fix the pillars, V for the vents, and DD to all stand on the same spot for the corruption. A lot of kills we have been in a Discord call, though, so we do have solid comms for that, but even when we weren't, we still had fine communication in-game. The fastest that we've done this room is a little bit under 4 minutes, so it turns out to be one of our longest, like, room 1s of any of the path, but we've slowly been getting better and better, and our team usually doesn't have to use more than 1 or 2 bruise tips by the end of the fight. After the first room in this path, you fight Baba. We've been poking him with a Grazi Rapier and getting some fairly quick kills when everything goes right. Again, this boss was annoying at first, but the better that I get at it, the more fun it is. We do have all but 1 Baba invocation on currently, so we are making Baba a little bit tougher on ourselves, but it does tend to be a solid kill for us if we start the raid with this path. There's a little bit of communication required with the boulders since you can't all share the same rubble when he throws a boulder at you. That's pretty easy to get used to also. The baboons opening up the sarcophagus can be pretty rough, but as long as the team targets them right away, it really doesn't matter. And sometimes you can get that boulder roll attack to KO the baboons for you, which is nice. His shadow attack is the most annoying. You either have to react very quickly or you walk in an L-shaped pattern will get you away from it rather than walking in a straight line. You do get used to that though. We were struggling most with Baba the first few hours of day 1, but at this point it's been a lot more consistent for us. It pretty quickly went from the hardest room for me to maybe not the easiest, but it's not nearly as inconsistent as it was before. Let's go and talk about the Path of Krondis a little bit. So the first room is actually pretty cool. It's a lot like running the Hallowed Sepulchre, but you got to go fill up some water and then run back to water the tree. The more times you get hit while you have water with you, the less water that you're going to have when you get back to the tree. Plus the crocodiles are going to spawn in and go drink water from the tree. The crocs are very weak to magic, so it's been pretty easy to freeze them, and they only have 30 health, so killing them doesn't take long. Even when we mess this path up, it's often a pretty fast room. Zebak also tends to be one of the easier fights. It's like fighting Nightmare or Jad. You constantly have to switch your prayers based on his attacks. He's insanely weak to range, so the fight tends to be very quick if you're all rocking like a Bofa or maybe a crossbow and get some hundreds with the Ruby Bolt specs. His special attacks can be rough. The wave across the room is really not that bad, but if you get caught in it, you are going for a ride. And then hiding behind the rock has been a little bit more of a challenge for us sometimes. You have to kick a jug over to it and clean the acid off the floor first, and we have messed that up a handful of times, and we've been wiped because of that. But other than that, the room does tend to treat us well. If we do that all correctly, it's very quick, and we use very few supplies. Next, we have the Path of Het. The first puzzle is very easy. It's like playing Dexter's Labyrinth on CartoonNetwork.com. You just get this light to hit the statue with the shield, and then you mine the seal in the middle. Higher level pickaxes can do more damage, and you can store a high level pickaxe where the bronze pick is on this statue, but don't forget to put it back there when you're done. On day 1, you could get through with just a bronze pick and then only doing 1 puzzle, but now you really do have to have a dragon pick and then have to be like on the seal the moment that it is ready for this to be doable. The Akka fight is probably the toughest of the 4 first boss rooms overall. I know I was saying that Baba was treating us poorly, but at this point, Akka's probably the toughest. Still not terrible, but he will protect from 2 out of 3 attack styles, and then he'll attack with any of the 3 attack styles. So you always have to use 1 set of gear and an overhead, and it can be any of the 3. So it's like fighting gorillas, but instead of 2 sets of gear, 3 sets of gear. He will always switch his overheads at the same time that he switches attack styles. So when he switches overhead prayers, you know he's now using a different attack style. And on my last couple runs of last night, I did notice that he was always switching his attack styles in the same order. It was melee, then range, then magic. And then like after magic, go right back to melee, range, magic. I don't know if that is 100% consistent, but for the few kills that I was watching for that, that was the case. Switching attack styles and overhead prayers can be very tedious, but the mechanics of the fight are very simple. Just KOing the shadow to make him vulnerable, then playing some Simon Says occasionally to not take damage. The main reason that the room is tough is because Akka seems to really be a tank. He has a pretty good amount of health, and it's often just one of the slower boss kills that we have. Plus, the final phase is kind of insane. I did get the bug one time where it didn't spawn any orbs, which is pretty cool. This is apparently about to be patched out, though, so I may not see that ever again. Finally, we have the path of Scabrous sounds terrible, dude. This puzzle room is my favorite of the, like the pre-rooms before the boss fights. It's just a few basic sort of logic puzzles here. You either light up all the lights, you gotta add up to the right number, you gotta hit the pillars in the correct order. There's a game of Simon Says, and then just a game of memory at the end of it. And most of these puzzles can be done by one person generally, other than the last one. Well, you still could do it with one person in the last one, but it would be super slow. So not everybody on the team has to be like really into it either. You could just have some teammate carry you through this if you find any of these puzzles confusing. The Kefri fight is actually a pretty easy one. You need to keep your feet moving, similar to like phase 2 of Lady Verzik. The attack visually looks like Vorkath's fireball, but you can actually Wooks walk it as if it was like Vorkath's acid attack when he uses those little fireballs. If you just click every other tick and you kind of go in this little X pattern that I'm doing, you will never ever get hit by one of those fireballs. The spawns are generally pretty easy to deal with, except for the arcane scarab. I mean, it has low health, so I guess it's still easy to deal with, but it can do a lot of damage, so watch out for that. Also, the Scarab Soldier can heal Kefri's shield, so you gotta watch out for that one too. So far, I have found that Kefri is weak to stab, and the Grazi Rapier has been cranking on it, but the Karis Partisan was a close second, and without any of the gems in it, that was a close second. So I bet the souped up Partisan with the sick gems would be insane in here. The Scarab Swarms are a bit of a pain in the ass. It's like Sleepwalkers from Nightmare, but when they get to Kefri, they heal her shield back up even more. It can be tough to KO a lot of them, so often her shield will fully heal up. It's really not that big of a deal if that happens, especially in solos. It's almost easier to just let that happen. That brings us to the final 2 bosses, the Wardens. Tumeken's Warden and Elidinis Warden. It's actually like, these guys are really cool looking, first of all. These are really dope bosses. This is one of the more theatric fights in the game. It gets really insane eventually. Phase 1 is super easy. It's like almost impossible to die, unless I guess you just tanked too many of the really simple hits. Like all of them are very easy to dodge. You shouldn't take that much damage. Phase 2 is really not that difficult, and if you dump a bunch of specs on the core when this guy drops down, you can get through the phase very quickly, leaving yourself with plenty of supplies for phase 3. Phase 3 does get wild. You have to fight the remaining Warden, who is very angry at this point. He's going to spawn spirits of 2 of the bosses that you have already killed, so you have to deal with attacks that they're throwing at you. And then there's a lot of moving back and forth. Eventually, he heals up like 20% health. You get to the final phase of the fight. This is like final phase of Phosani's fight, but on crack. You got to keep your feet moving a lot, and you got to keep switching your overheads. And the arena's slowly getting smaller. The fight does look really cool at this point, though. I mean, come on, this is crazy. This is visually one of the most spectacular fights we have in the game. Even the death animation is awesome. Like the visuals on this raid in general are incredible, but the final fight is awesome. Like I think I said it right the first time. It's pretty awesome. So my final thoughts for my first impressions for Raids 3, pretty straightforward. I think the raid is incredibly fun. There's a nice balance of doing some puzzles and then getting a lot of combat. There is some difficult combat in there, but it's not extremely difficult. Keep in mind, invocations are a big thing. The invocations are very interesting, how you get to customize the raid however you want. And I've only done up to a 150 difficulty raid, so currently it's not been as difficult as I would have expected it to be, but that's because I'm not even using like a third of the invocations. You can make the raid extremely difficult. I haven't done any expert mode raids by any means. So the puzzles and the boss fights are a lot of fun. They are very unique, though there are a lot of comparisons to be made. We were bringing up like the Hallowed Sepulchre and then Phosani's Nightmare being similar to like the final phase of the final boss, stuff like that. Clearly there's going to be some similarities from other bosses in the game. It wasn't just going to be completely different mechanics, but it is a very unique raid. Honestly, Raids 3, just in the first 2 days now, has been, like I said, incredibly fun and just really cool to do. I am excited to grind out a lot more Raids 3. Let me know what you guys think so far about Raids Life, and let me know about your gains. If you've also pulled some purple lights, I would like to know what you have gotten. Getting the Osmumten's Fang was very solid for cash, but there's some other more expensive things out there that we might be able to pull. On that note, I'm going to start wrapping up this video, though, everybody. Thank you very much for watching my first impressions video. I hope you enjoyed the first impressions. Maybe you were just here for the clip at the beginning, and somehow you made it all the way to the end of this video. I appreciate that very much. If you enjoyed the vid, or you just got some useful information, maybe be sure to like and subscribe for more content. I do stream on Twitch. In fact, I've been streaming 100% of my Tombs of Amascut grind on Twitch. That should currently be linked on the screen and in the description. So if you're enjoying the content at all, be sure to check me out on the Twitch side of things. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and best of luck on your Tombs of Amascut grind.